Welcome everyone to episode number 40, another milestone. Going through these milestones real fast. It's so easy when you have incredible guests to bring on and to highlight. So welcome Kelly Tolliday from Transformative Travel. How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm so honored to be here today.
I'm so happy and honored to spend time with you. We're both in the Daily Drip, and I feel like every time we're together, we're never together.
I know.
There's just so much going on, and everyone is so happy to see each other that we never get to spend time together.
I
So I'm
know.
super excited. Tell everybody about yourself, who you are, what you do, all that fun stuff.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Kelly Tolliday. I am a travel advisor, a travel podcast host, and I also lead group trips and retreats around the world.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How did you get into that?
Well, I've always been, I guess, a travel obsessed. Even as like a little girl, I was always obsessed with travel, and I was really lucky that my parents really prioritized giving us experiences. So even if it was just camping or skiing or, you know, my dad, one of his biggest clients used to be Royal Caribbean. So we used to go on his sales trips with him sometimes. So I was a cruiser when I was a little girl. And I was always the kid who was like stoked to go to the kids club. I was like, bye mom. I have friends now. Like I loved meeting new friends. I loved learning about the cultures. I loved language, even as a little kid. And so I had just a whole bunch of kind of life experiences as a young age, just being introduced to new cultures and really being enthralled by that. And I really loved the uncertainty of it. I really loved not knowing what was going to be around the corner. I really loved the potential of meeting a new friend or learning something new. And so that kind of just continued to evolve into my college years. I studied abroad twice. I studied in Costa Rica to learn Spanish. And then I studied in Switzerland for hospitality management. Cool. And then during my senior year of college, I met my now husband, Sam, who's Australian. I met him in Ireland. And after I graduated college at 21, I moved to Australia to live with him.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
So travel has always been kind of at the cornerstone of the most pivotal times in my life. And I found that I wouldn't be who I am today had it not been because of my experiences while I was traveling. So that was really my why behind wanting to be involved in the travel industry and being able to open up the world to people and make it stress-free and kind of lower those barriers of entry to go to some of those more transformational countries, some of those more deeper excursions that people might not feel comfortable doing it on their own, and they feel more comfortable because they have someone like me in their corner. And I started off about 11 years ago doing social media and content creation for tourism boards, for hotels, for travel communities. Then I started my own group tour company about 7 years ago. And now I'm also doing trip planning and advising for individuals and families too.
I think that's so good because I would say that a lot of people fear the process of putting together the trip, so they just don't do it. They don't get to experience those things because they don't know how. I know that for some, the language differences scare them, right? They don't want to go. I mean, I kind of would prefer to go to a place where I could communicate just easier, right? For experience's sake. And I know that that's doing myself a disservice as well. But yeah, I think that that's super valuable. I tend to be a DIY planner, but I don't really do adventurous trips. But I will say one of the best trips I've ever taken in my life was planned for me.
Yeah.
And it is a huge difference when you have the professional guidance of someone that, you know, has access to things that the average person doesn't. For a time, I feel like maybe in my 20s and my early 30s, it was fun to plan it. And now I'm just like, I'd rather let the expert do it and like I'm a luxury travel person. I like to I don't want to camp.
Yeah. Yep.
Like girls trip, my trip. Like I love that, you know, that type of thing. And so I do see a lot of value in what it is that you do. Can we talk about a myth? I don't know if it's a myth. It happens to us too. You maybe you can shed some light on this. This thing about if I book it through a travel agent, it's more expensive for me.
Yeah, so that is a really valid concern, I guess. So some travel agents are going to charge a planning fee, and that's really more when it's like a multi-week trip, multi-generational trip. And that can range anywhere between, depending on the agent, like $100 up to maybe even $1,000 if it's a really long trip, a really comprehensive trip, multi-destination, 3 or 4 different couples, that kind of thing. But for the most part, travel agents make their income through the commission that they receive from the hotels. And for the most part, the prices that you see online direct on the hotel website is going to be similar to the prices that we see on our side. If anything, sometimes we can get either slightly lower prices, or we can get the same price but added way more perks, like daily breakfast included, which at some hotels can cost up to $50, $60 a person. I have clients going to Thailand. They're staying at the Anantara. They both get 50-minute massages at the Anantara Spa in Thailand, which is a world-class spa. Sometimes it includes like excursions. Sometimes it'll include a room upgrade, early check-in, late checkout. So those are types of perks that only really we can receive. And sometimes we even get access to perks that are for a really high tier of a loyalty member of a certain hotel, but we get that automatically because we're part of the Virtuoso network, or we're part of the Preferred Partners network. So unless you're working with a travel agent that is charging a specific planning fee, because it is a comprehensive trip, if you're just doing like a hotel stay, or you're needing a flight, or you need an excursion, for the most part, it shouldn't cost you anymore.
That's really good. And I have been on the receiving end of that. Yes, there is definitely perks to doing it through a travel agent that the regular consumer just doesn't get. So that's cool. Talk to me a little bit about that, the retreats that you do, because I know that that's super important to you. And I know that you do, it's more than just going to see another country, right?
Yeah,
like talk about the elements that are involved in that.
Yeah. So it started about 7.5 years ago, actually. I led my first retreat. And it was a way for me to be able to combine all my favorite things. So it was a way to bring in travel. It was a way to bring in wellness, a way to bring in personal development, and kind of combine it all into one experience for people. And what I find is when people get to unplug from their day-to-day life in a really intentional, really mindful, really connected, like you're connecting with new people and connecting with yourself, it takes that travel experience to the next level. So you're going to go on some retreats where it's like a yoga immersion and you're doing yoga 10 hours a day. Oh, wow. And it's like meditation in the morning, yoga after this, then it's constant yoga. And that's perfect if that's the intention that you want, or it's a teacher training. Our retreats and tours more err on the side of you're going to travel in a way that you've probably never traveled before, a way in which wellness is the focus. So you're going to eat healthy foods. You're going to get the best sleep you've ever had. You're going to move your body. You're going to have time for journaling and self-introspection, but also taking the destination that you're going to and allowing that to be a part of the full experience as well. So we do a lot of indigenous activity. We do a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? So indigenous cultural immersions. We'll do adventure immersions. We'll have things where we go out into the natural world and get to know that specific area. And oftentimes it's really just observing the culture itself, where you're like, wait a minute. This Greek island is way slower than I'm used to being. That is a point of reflection for me. Why do I need to feel like I have to go so fast? So we really allow people to be present in their environment where we go to, whether it's Costa Rica, whether it's Thailand, whether it's Peru, and take what we're learning from those cultures and then weave it into the yoga and weave it into the wellness so that it feels like a really well-rounded experience.
That's awesome. What kind of places, those 3 places is where you've done it before?
Oh gosh. So I started in Australia. I was living in Australia for 5 years. So I've led 2 retreats in Australia. Then I hosted a retreat the week before the world closed in Costa Rica. We were literally there. The retreat, we were in this little bubble of
wellness,
little tiny like village in Costa Rica on the beach. Like no one was paying attention. And then as the retreat was closing, we started getting texts from our friends. Hey, all the toilet paper's running out. And we were like, kumbaya, everything's all good. And literally we landed and that's the day that the world shut down. But
what an abrupt
rip
from.
But I do feel like it was such a special opportunity for our guests. I think we had 10 or 11 guests. Such a special opportunity to maybe ease into it and take what we learned. And at least people felt like, okay, I got to see the world and there's a lot of uncertainty, but we had such a strong community amongst the 11 of us that we hosted happy hours together on Zoom and we were all checking in with each other because we were all in different parts of the country. So Costa Rica, we've done a couple local here in Florida. So kind of the Ormond Beach area down in the Keys. We've done Asheville. We went back to Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, Greece, Portugal,
I love Portugal.
So we try to go back, and I'm saying we because I have a business partner. We partnered together in 2021. I've been doing it for almost 8 years. She was hosting retreats for about 4 years, and we came together. And so we try to go back to destinations where either one of us have either lived in before, where we've traveled extensively, where we feel really comfortable. And if it's a country or destination that neither of us have been to, we partner with a local retreat manager there to make sure that we're getting everything as as authentic and as safe and
Right.
as contained as possible for our people. Because when we went to Thailand, I was like, yeah, turn right on this street, then turn left on this street, take 10 steps, look to the right, and you're going to see the 7-Eleven. Like, it's like having that insider
Correct.
knowledge is why people travel with us. It's the confidence of knowing that they're going to get what they want out of their trip, which is another reason why people are increasingly using travel advisors as well.
Yeah, I would imagine too, in that scenario of intentionally going and disconnecting for wellness, you definitely don't want to feel unsafe or not. You want to feel like you're with people that know what they're doing. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's also a bit of that. There is a lot of personal development work being happening, but it's that level of being taken care of by somebody else. And again, that's another reason why it's an ultimate luxury to use a travel advisor. But with the retreats, Suzette, who's also in our community here at Daily Drip, she was like, I'm always the one to plan the trip.
Right.
I'm always the one to make, because she's the adventurer, so she knows all the things. She's like, I'm always the one to know everything. And it was so nice just to show up and just tell me where to go. Okay, now where next? And just like not have to worry about any of that. So that's also a sense of that luxury, is to not have to be the planner and not have to be the doer, and you can just be where you're at.
I love that. What would you say is, I know that you've kind of touched on this, but what would you say is the biggest advantage for someone to invest in themselves and go on one of those retreats with you guys?
Yeah, I think especially if you're going through a bit of a transition in your life, if you're feeling like you're in a bit of a rut, or you're stuck, or you're resentful with the choices that you've made, if you feel like that feeling of kind of like stuckness, and whatever that is, with your health, with your relationship, with your work, it helps you kind of zoom out and get that 360-degree view of your life, because you're, like I mentioned before, you're out of those daily obligations. No one's tugging on your leg for snacks. No one's banging on your door at work for a deadline. You know, it's like you actually get to step away from that identity that you have to have at home, and you get to discover who you might be outside of those predetermined identities. And you get to take a rest from those identities. And doing that, not just on your own and some silent retreat in some cave in India, like you're doing that with a group of like-minded people who are there to support you. And we have groups from, I don't know, 5 years ago who are still WhatsApping each other.
Yeah, that's great.
And now they're going and traveling together, which is like the ultimate compliment to me. I'm like, you don't even need me anymore to travel. And on the flip side of that, we have people who have been going on retreats with us. I think in Peru, 2 of our guests will have gone on eight retreats with us now, almost twice a year. So it's having that group of people to support you. My teacher always says, it's the right practices, the right community, and the right mentors. And I feel like these retreats kind of blend all of that together. You're learning practices that can change your life, but very simple, that you can do back at home. You're in the right community of people who are there to support you. They all said yes to this one experience for a reason, so there's some commonality there. And then the right teachers, whether those teachers are myself and my business partner, Chloe, or whether the teacher is the nature around you, the environment around you, blending all those things together make it for a really transformational experience, as well as kind of taking your time off, your PTO, like your precious time, taking that and like elevating it to the next level. So I will say we get people who come to our retreats who have never done yoga before, or they haven't done it in 20 years, or they don't have an interest in doing yoga. And like, that is definitely not the core offering of what we do. We offer yoga every day. We offer sound healing. We offer time for journaling and introspection, but it's really for somebody who just wants to dig a little bit deeper into themselves and be able to experience the world. We have a lot of women who, and this is co-ed, these retreats.
Okay, I was going to ask, yeah.
Co-ed, but it tends to skew a lot of women. We have a lot of women who are married, but their partners just don't really want to travel. They don't like to travel. They don't want to. And they're like, screw that. I want to go see the world. So it's a way to be able to see the world in a really supportive way, but also digging a little deeper into those aspects of yourself.
Do you guys have like a no phone policy?
No.
Oh, okay.
We don't. I mean, we recommend kind of examining your relationship with your phone, and we also do the same with alcohol too. So we always say, like, you guys are adults, whatever's going to help you relax, whatever's going to help you be in the moment, whatever's going to help you feel like this is your experience, do it. However, for the sake of the group, please be conscious of your phone use, be conscious of, I mean, if you're taking pictures of people during yoga, probably a no-go.
Yeah.
And also with drinking, like, maybe don't stay up at night and be partying hard till 1 a.m. because people are trying to sleep. And the sleep is the really, really important part of that retreat. So I think in all of those vices, whether it's phone, whether it's alcohol, or whatever it might be for yourself, we always tell people you're adults, but also this is the part of being in a group, is learning how to be mindful of each other.
Also, yeah, it's also the perfect opportunity to disconnect from all of those things.
Yes,
that's
for sure.
the point.
Well, and we also usually have a professional photographer, which is great because they'll take pictures of you the whole time. And we had a guest in Portugal put her phone in her room, and I think she only picked it up for like maybe an hour a day just to check in with family and friends. And then she's like, all the pictures that I need will be taken by Morgan, and whatever I don't get will live in my mind. Yeah. And I was like, I think that's such a great way to kind of step into an experience like that.
Isn't it wild what the phones have done to us, even with like photos? Like I remember when I was in high school, and I did have a cell phone, but it didn't have a camera.
Yeah.
Right. That's how old I am. But like I still have like pictures I developed in high school. Mm-hmm. And so I was always a person that took a lot of pictures, but it was still limited. I like loved pictures. I loved memories. I would always, but now it's just like everything deserves a picture. And that's all, I feel like that's also harming us because we don't live in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think it's really important when you travel, not just on retreats, but also just traveling in general. And I backpacked for a year through Asia. We went back again for another year, a couple years later. My husband and I, we've been all over the place. And specifically around 2015 was when the height of the selfie was starting to come in. It was kind of the height of like blogging, and Instagram was just starting to pick up. So there was a little bit of that influencer culture. There's always been bloggers and influencers in their own right, but the social media influencer, that was starting to come to a height. And I remember us traveling to places, specifically in the 2018 trip that we did. That was about a year of travel. That we had a drone, we had a GoPro, we were really like, and the blog was going, and we were getting free stays places, like we were getting some solid brand partnerships. But I remember seeing things online and being like, oh, we have to go to that bridge in Sri Lanka because there's this really cool picture. And my husband, he's just like, whatever, let's get on the motorbike, get on there. We have to hike down this mountain. We almost slide down. It's this crazy thing. We get there and I see the bridge and I'm like, what? I mean, it's cool, but like, did I just spend half a day to get here for this picture that I didn't get? So I was pissed. And I'm like, we spent half a day going somewhere for a picture. And that's when I really had to do a self-reflection. Like, do I actually want to go to this place because I want to experience it? Or do I want to go to this place because I'm going for a picture? And is this exploitation of this specific area for a picture degrading the environment, exploiting a culture? Like, really digging deep. Do I want this for a memory that I'm going to keep and cherish? Or is it going to live in my camera roll of 30,000 pictures that I'm never going to look at again? And am I not being present because it's just for a picture for some cyber identity that I'm creating?
And
for
it doesn't
myself?
translate. Some of the things, especially with nature, do not translate anyways. So we're so obsessed with taking the pictures, and then we go back and we're like, oh, it was way prettier than this.
Well, and I will say, from my time in 2015 to my time in 2018 going through Southeast Asia, it changed from me personally and then also observing other travelers. It changed from, let me get this really cool picture of this landscape, to look at me in this landscape. It changed from the place to me in this place. And if you look back at like the last decade, you'll see quite a big transition in the way in which we value and capture those memories. So I do see that there's a bit of a shift in travelers wanting to put the phone down, taking like a Kodak camera, or taking just a point and shoot, a digital point and shoot. And you will take a lot less pictures when you got to whip out the camera and take the picture, and also for our kids. I mean, our kids are constantly on performance mode because of these phones. And it's like the trip can be the time in which they can put that down as well. And you as the parent really need to consider what that looks like for them on their trips. So yes, the phone is massive. I
love that you said that, because I'm not a mom. I feel like I say this every episode. If you haven't figured it out yet, I'm not a mom. But I feel like it plays into a lot of, I have a different perspective that's less common because most people are parents. And so it's interesting because there's some people on socials that I got to mute, because it's just like, listen, I know you love your kids, but I don't need to see every hour of your child's life. And I think to myself, doesn't this harm children?
Yeah.
It's almost like, I feel like it's almost like they're performing.
Yeah.
Exactly what you said. That thing of everything deserves to be like recorded or put on the act. I don't know if there's data on that yet.
There is.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it says, so there actually is data around that, and specifically around teenagers, because they grew up with the phone in their face, and now they're growing up with phones in their pockets as early as 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that they are not knowing how to experience the world in front of them if it's not through the lens of the phone. And there's this story of this kid who's leading this movement, and he's in his early 20s, about, phone-free childhood. And he was talking about this story about there's these kids at a party and they're all on their phones. No one's talking. Everyone's scrolling. And then someone puts their camera up. Okay, guys, let's take a video. And then everyone's like, woo, 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 like partying.
Pretending to party.
Sends it. And then boom, they're all back on their phones. So then, Susie, who's not at the party, sees that on Snapchat and goes, oh, everyone's having fun without me. And then boom, here comes this, shame spiral or whatever they're thinking about, anxiety, but it's actually not real. It's a performance. And so you got to think about how early did these kids grow up with phones in their faces? And I'm guilty. I mean, as soon as my kid does anything remotely cute, I'm like, all right, do it again, but like cuter.
Right.
Can you please smile? So it's something that I'm struggling with too. My daughter this morning said, can I hold your phone in my car? And I said, no, you can't, because we used to do that and now we're fighting about it. So we're not doing it anymore. And she goes, why? And I was like, well, the phone is not great for your brain. And it's actually not great for my brain. And it's something that I'm working on. I'm working on that, Layla. I shouldn't be on my phone as much as I am. So there's no right or wrong way to do it, but the data is there to show you. So especially when you're traveling, it's like, that's your time to disconnect. And yet we're still paying attention to what's happening back home. We're getting FOMO from people back home when you're in Italy eating gelato. It's like, yeah.
Super interesting stuff though about that. And I would assume, I'm like that with my dog. I'm taking a picture of everything my dog does. And I know that, you love your children more than your pets. So I get it. And I feel like it's a constant thing of like wanting to hold on to a memory. So you take a photo of it, but it happens to you at concerts, right? You go to concerts and everyone's recording it. Who watches that?
Yeah.
Nobody. I don't know that I've ever sat back and watched any footage of a video I took at a concert.
Yeah.
Why don't I just put my phone away and enjoy the concert?
Yeah. And I'll actually go one step deeper on that. As we say that we want to hold on to the memory, but I would ask, are you creating this for some narrative that you're trying to create for yourself online? So we say it's for the memory,
yes.
But is it actually for some series of stories that you're going to post to tell some narrative about your life online? Are you creating this for, and there is something to be said when you own a business and there's a brand that you have to create. But like, I always have to ask myself, would I be taking this picture if I wasn't planning on sharing this on social media? And on the days where I say, Kelly, you're not posting on social media today, and it's hard because I have a personal brand. So it's like, I have people that are like actively interested in what I'm sharing.
You have an audience. Yeah.
So, but on the days where I'm like, Kelly, put it away, you're going to go to the beach and you're not going to share it. Sometimes I do have to ask myself like, oh, is this as enjoyable as I'm making it seem online? Is this actually like feeling as good as am I going here to take pictures for online? And that's a really sad question to have to ask yourself. Like, are we doing these excursions because you want to share it or because you actually want to go? And on the days where I do give myself several days away, it's like, okay, I actually have taken like a third of less pictures than I normally would, sometimes not even any. And so that really begs the question, are we using our phone as a way to create this identity online, or is it because you actually want to take the pictures? So my goal for our next trip is to get a digital point and shoot and use that for all the pictures that we're going to take. And I'm really excited, like a little experiment. And I'm asking these questions not as judgment, like I'm asking myself
honestly,
these questions.
But that's a really good question. I don't know that I've ever even stopped to think about it. And I'm glad that you said what you said about the business owner aspect, because it's this pressure of showing up online. You have your audience. You need to, show that your place is, and especially for you, right? Like for you, your business is one of where people go to relax and you travel. So your job is to show us the places you've gone, why you enjoy them. So it's even more challenging.
Yeah.
Like, how do you disconnect if you're there on a vacation with your family, but this also is a way for you to grow your business? So that is challenging. And I think that I had Dr. Julie on and we talked about this social media thing, and it is the pressure and to your point about manufacturing experiences to show up like we're cool online, like we are where we are where all the cool people are. We're doing what the cool people are doing. Like, it's wild that at our age, like, that is a thing.
That manufactured fun is actually something that's a term I've been using a lot, is like, especially with the kids too, because there's a lot that you can do with kids all the time. And again, I think it's just going a little bit deeper within yourself and asking, okay, if I didn't have my phone here to take these pictures, would I be as invested? Or if I didn't have social media to be sharing this on, would I be as invested in taking these pictures? And I think it really does take away from the present moment where you're at, especially when you're traveling. Like you said, in the concerts, people, taking videos of the song for the entire song. And it's like, well, you just watched it through the lens of your phone, not through, your own personal experience. And the same thing is true when you travel. I remember going to Angkor Wat in Cambodia, and we went to Angkor Wat at sunrise to see the famous, sun peeking out over the ancient temples. And we went there, and I wanted to get this specific picture that my husband got 5 years prior when he was backpacking. And we got there, and it was cloudy, and the sunrise wasn't great. And there was 1,000 other travelers there with their selfie sticks and the drones and the GoPros and the cameras. And I remember being so pissed off. And my husband was like, what do you mean? It was a beautiful morning. And I was like, well, I didn't get the picture, and your picture was better. He's like, Kelly, do you realize how many filters I had to put on that picture to make the sun look as beautiful as it did? And all these people are here for the exact same reason as you. I'm like, I wonder what percentage of people came here and just put their phone away and experienced the sunrise instead of trying to capture a specific picture for for the 24 hours it's going to live on someone's feed. And I spent the morning being so angry. And Sam was like, this is the most ridiculous thing. Like, he literally was like, you are being ridiculous. Yeah. But I was too mad, so he was wrong. But you know what I mean?
Honestly, it's kind of first world problems. It really is.
One of those experiences where I still think back almost 10 years later, like, wow, how skewed are the priorities? So it's something to just consider. And that's, not every travel advisor is going to advise you on those types of situations, but part of my approach is to give a really balanced, grounded itinerary. So you're not running from excursion to excursion to excursion, giving you a lot of freedom of choice within your itinerary. Some of my clients only want hotels, and they want a couple restaurants, and they do the rest themselves. But part of it is giving those tips of like, okay, you're going to go to Angkor Wat and you want to see the sunrise. I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be 100 other people. Put the phone away, like, meditate, breathe, let it be the experience. And you can buy a picture on a postcard. Like, it's those types of tips that I give to my clients so that they remember why they're having the travel experience in the first place.
Yeah. And I think that, there's people, if we didn't have the cell phones and you had your digital camera, or my dad had the video camera that had the little thing, right? Like, okay, you would record a little bit of it, right? I think that, like, I go to places, yes, you want to take a picture with the statue of David. Okay, great. You want to take those pictures. Great. Take the picture and put it away. It doesn't have to be the whole time. Right? Capture the memory, put it away for whatever reason. You're scrapbooking. I think that also is a lost art, which I used to do a little bit of it that I think I'm going to pick up again because it's fun. And then you get to, like, relive those memories. Okay, great. You want to take a picture there with the pyramids? Okay, do it. Put it away. Yeah. Don't take 700 pictures. Yeah. Right? So that way it's like a little bit of, you can send it to your family. Like, that's also the thing too. Like, I was just in Mexico City. My mom is like, send us pictures. Okay, cool. Right. But put it away. End it. Yeah. It's the same concept with, like, the restaurants, and the phone eats first. Like,
well, I think the issue as well is the reels and the TikTok and the YouTube. Like, it's like, now we're having to not just take the picture and put the phone away. Now there's the video and the cinema, whatever that setting is, cinematography. Yeah. And it's like, how many 3-second clips can live on your phone? So yeah, to your point, I think it's just about going back to asking yourself the questions about what do you want out of these trips too? What do you actually want? If one of your goals out of this trip is to unplug and learn how to be present, then your phone is going to be number one that you're going to want to look at and reevaluate whether you even want to bring it out with you in the first place.
I agree.
Or put it on Do Not Disturb. I have listened to many experts that put their phone on Do Not Disturb or on airplane mode. And if an emergency pops up, they just flip their phone back on. They use their phone. They find out on Google Maps where they have to go. They ask someone for directions. God forbid we have to do that. Then they put their phone back on airplane mode and they continue on with their day.
Yeah. super important stuff that I think that I mean, I feel like I'm on like notification overload already.
Yes.
And so it is super over. And I think that there's an aspect to this too. We were talking about it prior to recording, right? Like we don't disconnect from we don't have a job where we shut the computer and walk away, you know, up at 2:00 in the morning, thinking, worrying, strategizing. So it's, you know, social media is its own silo in our business plan of that you have to do, right? You have to show up, you have to be present, you have to be found. So it's another layer of pressure. It's not even like social media is fun like it used to be at some point where it was just seeing your friends, you know, pictures or videos. You know, it's now a revenue income depending on what industry you're in. Right? So it just adds another layer of pressure to show up and to be there and to look a certain way, look polished, all that stuff. So, I mean, it's never ending, but we're not going to solve that here. I think your tips, the question that you ask, that question is really, really heavy of if it wasn't because I was going to put this in a story, would it even matter? Mm-hmm. That's a big deal. Yeah. That's a big deal. Let's talk about your Daily Drip article. I just read the last one about your first memory of traveling Virgin Islands, right? On the boat?
Yeah, well, it's not my first memory, but it's a very clear memory.
The clear one.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh, so you have one even earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, one of my earliest memories, my mom now told me that I would have been 3.5, but I remember jumping in a pool on a cruise ship when I was like 3.5.
Wow.
I remember vividly my dad being on the other side. That would have been, around 3.5. I remember being in Colorado 4, 5, 6. Like we used to go a lot. My dad's a big skier. He's actually in Colorado right now. I have a lot of memories. Camping, loads of memories. Camping, some of my favorite memories of ever was we do father-daughter camping.
Oh, how fun.
Well, we used to when we were little.
Oh my God. Can you imagine if you did it now? How fun that would be.
It would be so fun. Well, we did it with a program here through the YMCA here in South Florida, where it's a group of dads and daughters. But anyways, my core memories are from traveling. And there's a big bout of research that just came out this year. I can't remember the source of it, but it was 62% of Americans remember more vividly a family trip between the ages of 5 to 10 than any other celebration, a birthday, a school event, a sporting event. They remember more vividly that family vacation than they do any other like significant event that could happen.
I think because after I read your article, I started thinking to myself, what is the first memory of a trip of mine? And I think I was in 4th grade and we went to Cancun.
Yeah.
And I remember we took one of my grandmas and it was a family like with some friends. And I remember doing certain things. I remember the name of the hotel we stayed at. I was in 4th grade.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And you probably don't remember, what you did for your birthday that year or,
Right.
So the point
the
of
things that are perceived as obvious milestones are not remembered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so this was like positive experiences. They didn't mention, traumatic experiences or anything like that, because that would get lodged in your brain much deeper. But the idea that these trips are more vivid, and again, it doesn't have to be going all the way to Cancun. It could be going camping with your dad for 2 days. It really struck a chord with me, because some of my most vivid memories, and the memory that you're mentioning is my birthday. We spent, my dad and me have similar days on our birthday. So we went down to the British Virgin Islands and we spent a week on a catamaran. My parents and their friends went diving. Me and my friends, we went snorkeling. And I mean, still to this day, I can remember jumping in the water and there being a bunch of jellyfish. I remember the big barracuda. I remember, like, it's just those memories stay lodged within you as a kid. And they definitely served me and my curiosity about the world. And it's something that we talked about in the article was even, whether it's a Christmas gift, whether it's a birthday gift. Me and Lisa Rigoli, who's also in the Daily Drip, we were literally texting this morning how important it is to give our girls, instead of, maybe 1 or 2 presents on their birthdays, but give them a big trip that is going to like mark their birthday every year, so that they remember and they see the world. And so that was part of the article, was how to give experiences rather than just gifts. And I think that it's with the hope that it's a big shift in our consumerism as a country, as a country really, but as the world, and also, helping the planet and also opening up the world for people in our lives.
I love that. I mean, and if you think about it, an experience is a gift.
Yes.
So you're doing both.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be a trip either. Like my aunt, we used to have yes days on my birthday every year. And we would go to the water park. She'd take me to the mall, and I could go shop for anything, and I would go to like Limited 2 or something. You know what I mean?
I worked at the Limited.
Oh, wow. You were the girl I looked up to.
That's how old I am. The store does not exist anymore.
So yeah, it's like, it could be something so small, but it's that act of the experience and the time together. That's what's going to bond you with your family members or your loved ones, more so than the latest toy.
Yeah. I love that. Let's talk a little bit about your sobriety journey.
Yeah.
I guess if you want to call it that. I don't know. What do you call it?
Yeah, I call it sobriety now. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I would say it's not so much like a hard and fast rule for me. I would say more alcohol free than anything else, just because when people think of sobriety, there's a lot of stigmatization to it, which I don't even mind. I'll say sober. But yeah, it's been about a 7 years. In 2017, I was coming off of a couple years post-college. I was in a big girl job. I was working in the media in Sydney. So there's a lot of publisher parties and a pretty big drinking culture where I was in my life. And I had my first couple rounds of like, ooh, that wasn't an action that was aligned to who I want to be. And what's really funny is at the same time I was doing my yoga teacher training. So I was like super Yogi Kelly on, certain parts of the weekend when I was training. And then during the week at publisher parties or on the weekend with friends, completely different. So there's this like massive dissonance between the person I wanted to become and knew I was at my core and the person that I was when I was drinking. And so I, decided, go on little breaks here and there, take a month, do dry July, do dry Jan, maybe go a year. When we traveled in 2018, it was very easy because in Southeast Asia, there's just the beautiful coconuts and juices and everything everywhere you go. And so I just kind of kept on going back and forth with little breaks here and there. And then in 2023, so last October, I had 2 different family health scares. They're both fine, but it was to that point where I was like, you know what? That's it. This is no longer serving me. And at that stage in the last couple of years, I really wasn't drinking that much. None of my even close friends who knew me in my drinking years, they would never, expect me to be the one to be blacked out at a party. I always knew relatively when to stop in the last few years, but even one glass of wine, one beer, one daytime drink, I was out. And with 2 young girls trying to run a business and again, trying to, align to the ideals of the person I want to be, I was just like, it's not working for me anymore. So I had a great community of people who welcomed me into their support group. I have great friends that were running a sobriety community. So we did some fun things together. I read a ton of sobriety books. I just kind of like went headfirst into it. And luckily this wasn't the first time that I mentioned it to my husband. He knew over 7 years, I'm on my way to eventually be not drinking anymore. So he was totally supportive. And I will say it was relatively easy to stop this time around because it's been a 7-year process for me. Some people have to stop cold turkey because there's a very serious rock bottom that they hit, a DUI, an arrest, something happens.
Right.
For me, it was kind of like little pebbles getting thrown at me until they turned into rocks, until eventually one glass of wine is a boulder and I'm out and I'm done. So I will say I've never been clear. I've done nothing to change my diet or my exercise, and I've never been thinner, which is not the goal.
The inflammation, but
it's the inflammation. I could just, there's a lot of physical benefits that I'm having, but mostly it's like the emotional stability that I don't think I've ever had before. Even when I was meditating hardcore.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's like it's like neutral. It's a neutrality that I've never really had before.
I feel like I'm a social drinker. Like I like to party, but I've never been the person that's like, oh, today was so hard, I need a drink.
Yeah.
And my husband and I have a fridge full of wine, like literally a bottle doesn't fit. Pre-COVID, we were big entertainers. We would always have people over and we have a full bar. I actually cleaned it out last week because I was like, I don't know when the last time was that we even served ourselves a drink, but I've noticed with age that a glass of wine, I'm paying for it next day. Where before, in my 20s, I could have 4 with a dinner and I would wake up the next day fine. And now I'm just like, I don't know that I've ever thought of doing what you've done, but I am like, well, if I'm going to have this glass of wine tonight, what am I doing tomorrow morning? Because I'm not going to be able to do it. Like I have to have a morning off because I sleep bad. I feel terrible. It's with less alcohol than my younger years. So I don't know if like it's an age thing, but I mean, you do like, I admire your, you're sticking to it, and you're very self-aware of like, well, even though I only drink a little bit, it still just is not allowing me to be who I want to be. So why not just get rid of it?
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like also for me, I was wanting to be the best mom that I could be. And I definitely was like way less tolerant the next morning. I had way less patience. And for some people, probably like yourself, who can take it or leave it. Okay, I could have one glass of wine, or I could just not have one glass of wine. For me, it was more like I couldn't moderate. I would be like setting up all these rules for myself. Okay, well, you're not going to drink until Friday. And then on Friday, only on the weekends can you have one drink on each day. But if it's a wedding, then you can have 3. And it's like all these rules, all these exceptions. Right. And anyone who has struggled with their relationship with alcohol, whether it's a big P problem or a little P problem, like anyone who's struggled with alcohol will know those rules that I'm talking about. Like setting up these boundaries and then not following through with the boundaries, then the shame. Well, why did I have 2 glasses? I only said I was going to have 1. Alcohol is an addictive substance. Like it is set up and designed to make you drink more. So for me, I had to eliminate it altogether. So it's been 14 months now. This is the longest stint that I've had. For me, it has to be black and white. I know I've spoken to a lot of people where they're like, well, I can live in a gray area. I can take it or leave it. It has to be black and white for me. I'm not going to say that it'll be forever, but for right now, it feels really good. Yeah. And every time that I get a little bit of, well, maybe I could have one, I just have to play the tape forward and be like, how is this going to feel tomorrow? What's the point of this? Are you even going to feel what you think the alcohol is promising you're going to feel? Because probably not. Right. And this plays a big role into travel, actually, because I know a lot of people who will not drink very much when they're at home, but then they go to Italy and it's, well, I have to drink Italian wine. I have to drink French wine. And that is a big struggle that people, how to navigate alcohol-free travel, or they don't even attempt to go alcohol-free because they have a trip coming up. And it's like how to navigate those things. So I think there will be an article out from Daily Drip already by the time this episode airs, all about how to navigate sober travel. And if anyone listening needs more tips as well, I have a whole episode on my podcast about sober travel with a leading sobriety coach. So yeah, that's a big part of it too, is how to navigate the alcohol-free vacations and travel.
Can I ask you about business and being alcohol-free? Because I mean, the culture, especially in the corporate world, right? Like at least in my space, there's a lot of drinking in insurance, a lot of drinking at the conventions. It's a thing. But like, what advice do you have for people that are in that corporate space? And I've never really worked in corporate, like that big of corporate. So I never got there in my youth. And I was never put in those positions of like, well, the ones that stay out late are the ones that get the promotions, right? Yes. Like, but I've heard that TikTok has told me too, that's like a real thing. And that women feel pressure to hang with the guys and stay out late and do what they do because otherwise they're not even considered. Yeah. Like, how do you, what's the advice that you have for someone that wants to do this for themselves, but also wants to advance in their career and they feel pressured to do that?
I mean, so I can understand that because I remember in college being told by professors and told by mentors, don't be the drunk one at the Christmas party. Don't do this, don't do that. So I was coming at it from being told not to do that. And then I moved to Sydney and I entered into a media agency where it was like exactly like you said. I went to my first party and one of the girls was like so drunk and I was like, oh no, I hope she doesn't get in trouble tomorrow. Like the next week she got a promotion and I was like, what? Yeah. I literally so that was my first kind of foray into the corporate world. And that was my new story. Well, you got to hang with the CEO. You got to hang, even the HR managers, you got to hang with them. And what I have found now, I've not been in corporate for a long time, but what I have found is I'm sitting across the table with people who are some of the most epic, strong, like badass leaders. And they're at the table saying, oh no, I'm not going to have a glass of wine. Oh no, I'm not drinking right now. Oh no. And it's like, there's something going on. There's a shift right now where some of the clearest, some of the most capable and strongest women in leadership are choosing not to drink. And I think there is a bit of a shift that is happening. I will say that if you're in a company where they're not respecting or even valuing your boundary to not drink, then it might not be the right corporation for you. And you might find yourself down a slippery slope of trying to hang and not being the person that you want to be. And then you're going to get a promotion based on the person that you're not. And that's just not going to feel good over time.
Then it's a cycle.
It's
well,
a
that's what
cycle.
happens.
And then you have to keep up that
Right.
persona. And I know that because I did that. So I know it's hard in the moment when you're trying to get ahead, but I think it goes back to asking yourself those deeper questions and potentially taking yourself out of that situation for a couple days, a week, on a retreat, a travel experience, something where you get to step out of that and be like, wait, am I being the person I want to be? And is this company going to value me as who I am if I don't drink or don't want to drink?
Yeah. I think that that's super powerful because I do know it is. And it's interesting. I've heard you speak about this, about like the reactions you get from people.
Yeah.
Like it's your choice. It has nothing to do with them. And they're just like, what do you mean you don't drink? Right? Like what mentally, how do you think, or what is the best piece of advice that you can give someone to, like, do you have a community?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sure that's helpful.
I would say, not like, first and foremost, you have to find a community of people,
Yeah.
whether it's online. There are a ton of amazing sobriety coaches that have epic memberships. So I'll just plug Jen Hurst. She's amazing. She's Lighthouse Sobriety. They have women from all over the world, and they have daily meetings that you can join. There's local communities of women that are sobriety, like fun community events. So you can go do things without being having the pressure of alcohol. There's a lot of really amazing non-alcoholic bars right now. I know there's one in West Palm Beach. And of course, there's programs like AA and stuff where you get to connect with people too. So there's a lot of different ways to do sobriety. I think you have to have at least one other person for accountability, not for judgment, but just for accountability, to check in and be like, hey, I'm really struggling today on these 3 things. And then they can reflect back to you your reasons why. And then if you do relapse or if you do have a drink, then you have someone to go to and say, let's start over again. Because if you're by yourself, that's when the shame, it's hard. And that's when the shame creeps in if you do have a drink when you told yourself you won't. And it's when you just think that you're all alone in it. The more that I've opened myself up to community, I'm like, oh my God, there's thousands of amazing people out there. And I think it goes to show where the world is heading, to feel like you're not alone, because I believe Heineken, I believe it's Heineken, spending 30% of their marketing budget on Heineken Zero. Asahi, I think it is, they have a zero. Again, spending a huge chunk. Guinness, spending a huge chunk of their marketing budget on Guinness Zero. You never in a million years would think Guinness would have a zero, yet they're spending a lot of money marketing it. Almost every single major beer brand has an NA option, and almost any restaurant you go to, besides maybe like your average sports bar, are going to have pretty good
don't
NA
go to Twin
options.
Peaks.
Exactly. So I think it's a good time if you're thinking about making the switch. It's a really good time to do it because there's a lot of people in the community. And I think for me, I haven't really gotten that much negative feedback because I've kind of been the girl for 7 years who, Kelly, are you drinking or are you not drinking today?
Right. Play it around
like
with
nobody
the idea.
really, So it's okay to soft launch yourself.
Yeah, that's good.
Depending on the level of severity of your addiction or the level of severity of your problem. This is my personal experience. But you got to get clear on what you want. You got to get clear on your why. And you need to make sure that you kind of put the blinders on that, because if you waver and be like, well, maybe I'll drink, but I'm just going to see how I feel when I get there, you're almost always going to say yes to the drink, because the craving is going to overpower your logic. So you need to just say not today, and then just keep doing that. Not today, not today, not today.
And I think too that, like, when we come back to the power of social media, that's one of the things too. Like, if check who you're following too. Check how much the influencer that you're following is posting about the cocktails they're making. Like, maybe that could be another source of a community. That's where social media is great. The power of it for the positive, right? Like, where you could reach out to people that maybe share the same struggles, and their stories, and you can create find a community there within people that are also achieving it, working towards that.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to that question that we asked about social media. Am I taking this picture because I want to, or am I doing it for some cyber identity? Asking yourself with alcohol, if you're going to a party and you're like, I really don't want to go if I'm not drinking, and I don't really even know if I want to have these conversations with these people. It's like, well, do you even want to go to this event, or is alcohol helping you be there? Because if you need alcohol to be somewhere because you don't really like those people, or you're not aligned with those people, or you're uncomfortable around those people, maybe they're not your people. And that's okay. That's a hard question to ask yourself, but that's why you have to counterbalance that with a community of people who you do have aligned values with. And it's just continuing to ask yourself over and over and over again these questions, like going a little bit deeper.
Yeah. Which I've realized doing this is a lot of our problems as human beings is even our episode that I did with Maria, you know, she was just like, it's the foundation to getting a goal done is asking yourself, what do you want? And I was like, yeah, but that's a big question. Because how many times do people actually stop and just ask themselves, what do you want out of your life? Who do you want to be?
You need to ask twice too. So that's what my teacher, Mark, he always says, what do you want? And then it could be like, well, I want this and I want that. And it's like, no, but what do you really want? If you could only pick one of those things or two of those things, or if you strip away it all, what do you really want? And then you get down a little bit deeper. I know Mel Robbins talks a lot about ask yourself why, and then why again, and then why, but why? And just like keep getting down to the root. Because sometimes if you say, for example, I want to buy property in Costa Rica, and they say, why? Well, I want to give my children a great experience. Okay, but why? And then I keep going all the way down. And then I realize, oh, I don't need to buy land in Costa Rica to give them what I want to give them. And the same thing goes for alcohol. The same thing goes for social media. The same thing goes for travel. Why do you want to go to this particular location? Is it because you saw it on Instagram and it looks pretty? Or is it because that you really want to learn something about this particular culture? Or I just want to go on an all-inclusive because I want to turn my brain off and not think about anything. Like just getting really brutally honest with yourself.
Honestly, even that, I've learned that here, having all these conversations with incredible people that are much smarter than me. A lot of them have gotten to where you have gotten in your life with, you ask yourself the hard questions. Your self-awareness is refreshing. It really is. It really is. It's great. It's great to be around someone that can connect their own dots. How many people don't do that? We're just walking around like robots, doing what we think we have to do because we have to do it because someone told us. Like nobody stops and thinks.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know kind of where it came from, but I appreciate that thought. Thank you. Sometimes it's a curse.
Oh yeah. I would say,
especially in motherhood, it could be a bit, because I think everything I'm doing is messing them up. But I think, kind of like to bring it back to travel, as I always do, travel has helped me do that a lot, because when people like to romanticize travel, and that's another thing that a travel advisor can help you is during it's the high highs. And I love when my client has a great time, but I also love being there when something happens when they travel, and I can be there to help them, like get a refund on an excursion or help them find a new train ticket because there was a delay. That's travel. Like I can't guarantee that it's going to be 100% smooth, but what I can do is be there for you. However, travel is, it's chaotic. It's crazy. You're opening yourself up to a wide variety of variables that is not just in your contained little corner of your own slice of the world. So those types of experiences that have stripped away like what's important and what's not important. Like I've been in a natural disaster in Indonesia. I've been stuck places. I've been like in situations that aren't great. And you realize like, okay, if I had to grab 3 things, what are they going to be? Right. If today's the last day, what's important to me? You know, if I I've been somewhere where I've just like, oh, like work's just really, work's not that important. It's okay. It's okay. Like just take a deep breath. It's okay. And then I get back home and I have a new refreshed sense of what's important to me and what's not. But I think travel helps you kind of strip away the niceties, and it helps you strip away the parts of yourself that you build up because you think it like puts a little armor around you of importance. But then when you're somewhere for
where you're a nobody,
and you get to just be who you want to be, you realize, oh, this feels really nice to kind of take this armor off. I can finally breathe. And then you get to reintegrate that back home if you
choose to
take that time to choose to.
If you choose to. That's really powerful. And that's it's so true. Quickly, because I want to be respectful of your time, and we've had some technical issues today. So talk to me about the business of you. You know, this is a business podcast. I think everything that we've talked about today is very helpful, right? For anybody, not just a business owner, but the corporate person that's overworked. Prioritize yourself. Take some time to travel. It's an investment in yourself. Yeah. You need it. You need to disconnect. Call Kelly when you do. But how I feel like the extreme of like your business is to provide other people escape, you know, these experiences. How do you manage that? Like just for yourself as a business owner, you know, what's been the toughest thing for you? What's the best piece of advice that you could give someone starting out, no matter the industry?
Yeah, it's a tough question because it's something that I think I'm still, even though I've been working for myself for a long time. I feel like it evolves so much. And as the business evolves, then you have to evolve, whatever your schedule was, whatever your workload is. And especially as my girls change their ages, it's a whole nother level of demands and capacity. So I think the biggest piece of advice that I continue to tell myself is like, it's important to be able to evolve and pivot when you need to. And that if I'm not okay, the business is not going to be okay. So if I'm overwhelmed, the work that I'm producing, the level of service that I'm able to offer, the person that I want to be at home to my husband and my girls is not going to be the person that I need to be. So if that means that I need to say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be the best travel advisor for you because you're going to Argentina and I've never been there before, I'm going to refer you to somebody else. And that clears up my schedule to either take on a client that is going to Thailand and I can do it. Like, I know the street number that you would be on.
Yeah.
That feels more aligned to me. Like being able to say, no, but here is somebody else, whether it's travel advising, whether it's a podcast guest, whatever it might be. I think being able to like evolve and pivot and set those boundaries for myself have been really important. We were just talking backstage before we started recording how, you know, my podcast went from bi-weekly to weekly to then back to bi-weekly. And it's just like getting clear on the cadence of my life that I want, and then being okay with saying, you know what, I get to set the rules. I'm the business owner. And if I need to make a change in my frequency, in my cadence, in my workload, in my capacity, I have to do that. Because at the end of the day, like I said, if I'm not okay, the business is not okay. And it really is a matter of, again, asking yourself those questions. I don't know how many times I'm going to say this
honestly,
podcast.
though,
That's going to be the theme.
It is. But honestly, I'm sitting here and I do this and I don't ask myself those questions.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm afraid of the answers.
Yeah.
I am.
Well, I think a big part of it in business ownership, and I think we're very similar, and you know, we're very productive and we're very good at what we do. I feel like sometimes it's like this momentum that keeps moving forward. And if I hop off the train for a second, I'm not going to be able to get back on it. If I say no to that opportunity, who knows when the next opportunity is going to come around. This thing is a common fear that a lot of business owners have, no matter what industry you're in. And now I've been thinking about it more like a slingshot. Like if in order for you to catapult forward in a slingshot, you have to go backwards. You have to pull back to slingshot forward. And the most successful people I know are the ones that know when to do the pullback instead of consistently trying to continually jump themselves forward. They don't take the natural pause that we have in businesses. There are natural pauses and natural seasons to take that pullback. So I'm trying to get better at recognizing the pullback season and not just continue to plow forward, because that's been my tendency.
Your way. I like too that I've never heard of that example. That's really good, but I also like that you call it a season. Mm-hmm. I think we forget that there's seasons involved in life and in business, right? So it's temporary. We said that too earlier. Like these things are temporary. The seasons are temporary. I have a friend that is in my space, in the insurance space, and I had asked him like, what's the best piece of business advice he had ever gotten? And it's that the times don't last. When you have a big win, you celebrate it, but it doesn't last. Yeah. The loss is coming. Mm-hmm. And when the loss comes, you acknowledge it, you correct it, and then you get ready for your win. So it's like the times don't last. Yeah. So when the good is good, you enjoy it, you learn from it. When the bad is bad, you go through it, you learn from it, and then you just do it again. So it's like also recognizing, okay, like if you're in a down season, okay, well, the peak is coming. Just keep going. But you do have that reflection. The concept of the keep going is obviously you have to keep going, but it also can come with some pause, with reflection. What did you learn from the down? What can you better, maybe so that the down isn't that deep, right? It's just a smaller curve down instead of all the way down. So that concept of, I think even for myself, I've learned this year of also too, like the data of your business can tell you a lot about your business. So, you know, in what I'm doing for 2025 is that stuff, right? Like, where are my referrals coming from, right? Is this networking group worth it? Mm-hmm. You know, if you don't have the data to tell you those things, you could be spinning your wheels. You could be wasting your energy. You don't even like to go there. You think it's bringing you business, but is it? Yeah. Those questions are important. That pause, that time of pause, and asking yourself those certain questions that can be difficult, is necessary for the growth.
Yeah, I 100%. The down season is there to give you the breathing space to do the reflection. So in yoga, there's a concept called spanda, and it's the natural expansion and contraction of the world. I mean, it's just it's universal. And I like to think of it like a rubber band, kind of like the slingshot. Like a rubber band, you can stretch it as far as it can go, but at some stage you're going to let go and it's going to snap back. So instead of doing these massive peaks and then massive snapbacks where it actually hurts when it snaps back, how about we make it a little more neutral so that it's a little expansion and then we go into a little bit of contraction and then we expand a little bit bigger and then it contracts just a little bit. It doesn't have to be like it just gets a little bit easier for that elastic of the band to grow instead of trying to like push it as far as it can go and then it's going to snap back and you're going to get this little sting on your hand.
Yeah, that's
so
really
it's
good.
like
yeah.
A part of that little contraction instead of the massive snapback is learning how to regulate yourself, which is a whole nother podcast episode, but like learning what works for you. Like I was just talking about my husband. I was like, dude, you need to go outside and go for a 10-minute walk. Like you need to get back in your body, realize what's important, just move your legs, get some fresh air. And it's like learning what works for you to regulate yourself during those down seasons, because if we don't regulate ourselves during the down season or don't know what helps us bring us down to earth so that we can ask those bigger questions, then we go into fear, we go into anxiety.
Then it's a spiral. Yeah.
We go into grabbing onto any of the shiny objects to make us feel like we have control. And we're not able to take those reflective times. We're not able to take the down season as a reflective time. We're taking the down season as a failure. And that's when we start to spiral.
Yeah. That's not ideal. No. Been there.
Yeah, I'm saying that from personal experience.
Might be there right now.
Exactly.
Last question for you, Kelly. Thank you so much for your time. This has been so wonderful. Give us your best tips for summer vacation travel. You know, obviously you're a mom. What are your best tips for people that are either just mortified of traveling with small kids or just the idea of getting everyone on board, all that stuff, you know, what is the common objections that people have? How can you make it better?
For summer travel with kids?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the main thing that people ask me is like, somebody just asked me this on coffee the other day. She goes, do you actually enjoy traveling with your kids? And I was like, I mean, like sometimes.
Yeah.
I think I always think about it as big picture. The little tiny micro moments. Yeah, it's chaotic. Someone's complaining, someone's crying, someone didn't sleep well. The plane is anxiety, all the things. I think I have to think about it and zoom out a bit and think about the bigger picture and the experience that I want to give them, the experience that I want to give as a family. And just the same that you wouldn't start a podcast and expect your first episode to be the best interview you've ever done, your first major family trip, whether it's going to the next state or going to the next continent, your first major family trip is probably not going to be a massive success because you're learning as you go what's going to work for your kids. And one kid's going to need a lot more than the other kid. And the way that you set up the room is going to be different and the snacks that you bring and all of that. So it's like you can prepare all you want for the logistics, but the same way that you're not going to be an expert on your first project or your first knitting, you know, your first like knitting project that you do with your hobby or your first painting that you do, it takes time to build the confidence in yourself as a parent to be able to, it takes time as a parent to build your confidence to know that you're going to be able to handle all the ups and downs of travel on the road. So the first thing first is I kind of just say like, expect it to go a little crazy and not expect it to be this like 5-star relaxing vacation. The other tip is knowing it's not a vacation, it's a family trip. I think that's a big quote that goes around. Like, it's not a vacation where you're going to lie by the pool and read your book and relax, likely, until your kids are older. It's a family trip, and you're doing this for the experience of being able to spend one-on-one quality time together that you might not get at home. I know right now my husband's in a crazy lead-up period with his business before we leave for a month, and he's like, yeah, I might not see my kids for bedtime for these next 2 weeks, but they're going to have me for a month straight. And so it's having that one-on-one time together. In terms of actual like planning, I would say you don't need to plan too early. I know sometimes there's this like urgency to get it in right away. I think it's good to have your maybe accommodations booked and maybe flights, but you don't need to start planning the details of the trip right away. Actually, some of the biggest data that we have in my agency that I work for is that one of the biggest influxes for booking July and August travel was in June. So there's still kind of that pandemic last minute booking situation going on right now where people are just like, yeah, I'll go to Portugal next week, book.
Yeah.
And so it's maybe in the first few weeks in June, we do see limited availability in hotels and flights because everyone's out of school and everyone's trying to get out right away. But I would say if you're booking through July and August, maybe not so much for Europe, but domestic travel, you can definitely book a last minute trip. It's something to look forward to as a family. So if you do want to book early, I think sometimes it's fun depending on the age of your kid to get them involved. If you're going to Montana with your family, you can get some of your older kids involved in the planning process. You can ask them to have okay, my oldest daughter's name is Layla. Layla, we're going to have a Layla day. What does Layla want to do? And have her do some research and say, hey, Layla wants to go to the gem store in Montana, and then she wants to go see an elk or whatever.
Yeah, that's cool.
Getting them involved is a good way, especially if you have older kids who might be a little annoyed that they're leaving their friends for the summer.
100%.
Getting them involved is another way, and letting them know the process. Like even when they're a little bit older, okay, well, how much does this cost? Your budget for this day was $300, and there's a really good like learning experience that you can have with the kids.
I love that. I love the I've seen it on TikTok where like the families make each child like do a PowerPoint presentation of like where they want to go and why, and I think that's great. Yeah. Get them prepared for like presentation skills too, the research aspect of it, and then putting it together and presenting. I love that.
Yeah, I know Maria Maldonado Smith. She does a really great job of doing that with
It has to be so fun too. Yeah. It has to be fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah.
And we'll put it in the show notes too.
Okay. So my website is transformwithtravel.co. The Instagram is at transformwithtravel. So that's where you can find travel advising. You can find my podcast, which is Transform with Travel. And I'm on social media more than I would like to. So that's one of my goals in 2025 is to rein it back a bit. However, if you DM me, I will likely get back to you right away.
Awesome. Kelly, thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise and your viewpoints. And I'm so upset because we didn't even get to talk about like the work that you do to clean our oceans.
Oh, yeah. That'll be the next one.
Next episode, yes. So thank you again for spending time with me this morning.
Thank you for having me.